Thank you all for joining. This is going to be a really well attended event this evening, and for good reason. Give me one more moment here. Hello. My name is Peter Wickman, if you don't know me already. I am the Director of Admission and Financial Aid here at the White Mountain School. It is just after 8 o'clock on Wednesday, February 3rd. So if you're tuning in live, thank you so much for joining us. And if you're watching this broadcast at a later date, we hope that you enjoy the content, and please do follow up with any questions that you have. If you've tuned in to any of these closer look sessions before, you'll know that they are intended to give you just that, a closer look at one of our specific programs. This evening, we're going to talk about experiential education. Now, last week, I said that the arts were one of my favorite programs here at the White Mountain School, and that was true. This might be even more true when I say that our experiential education program is truly something that I find just incredible and unique at this school. Tonight, you'll hear about more examples of how students can weave their passions, curiosities, and growth into both what happens inside of the traditional academic day and our co-curricular programming. You'll learn about how this school's geographic location, where we are in northern New Hampshire, plays a role in our school's identity and the incredible access that we have to the outdoors just out of our backyard. The really cool lifelong skills that our students learn here are unparalleled. I won't detour for too long, but those that have met me already probably know that I grew up in southern New Jersey, in the suburbs. And while I love New Jersey, I miss having hoagies down at the shore and listening to Bruce Springsteen in my Jeep. The thing that I missed in my high school experience was the understanding of the outdoors and how we can incorporate experiential learning using our place into a high school curriculum. It took me until I was about 28 years old to start learning many of the skills and activities that our students become confident and proficient in while they are still here in high school. So to say I'm jealous of them would be a significant understatement. Now, I don't want to delay any longer because we have a wonderful group of panelists this evening. In just a moment, I'll pull them on to share their perspectives and experiences about experiential education here at White Mountain. As always, please do use the comment function or the Q&A box to ask questions as they come up. I will do my best to feed questions to our panelists. Thank you so much to the folks that have submitted questions in advance. I'll make sure that they're addressed this evening. Now, if you'll give me one moment, I'll turn it over to Sean, who is the Director of Outdoor Education here at the White Mountain School. So give me 1 second and I'll pull you in. Where are you, Sean? There you are. All right, Sean, you're there. Leah, you're there. Toby, are you there? Toby's here. And Brian. Well, thank you all so much. Why don't we do a quick round of introductions before the overview of our programs? Sean, maybe you could kick things off. Sure. Name where you're from, how long you've been here and what you do here. And then Leah, and then Brian, and then Toby.
So yeah, my name's Sean. I'm originally from Rhode Island, but I've moved around a little bit. And I've been here at the White Mountain School as the Director of Outdoor Education this is my first year in that role. But I've been here at the White Mountain School for the past 3 years doing other little roles here and there. And I totally forgot what the other questions were off the top of my head. One of the things that I do here, as well as director of outdoor education and all of that, is I directly coach our rock climbing program, especially our outdoor rock climbing program. I do a lot for, and I am one of the dorm parents to Hill House, one of our residential dorms.
Thanks, Sean.
Hi, sorry, I was on mute. Classic Zoom move. My name is Leah. I teach Spanish here at the White Mountain School. I'm the chair of the World Language Department. But a huge piece of what drew me to this school was the experiential education and outdoor adventure aspects of our program. I help out with the rock climbing program. I've been coaching the indoor team. I have the pleasure of running Backcountry Sisters, which is a female identifying affinity group for those who are interested in the outdoors. We run a lot of really fun events on campus and off. Yeah, I've served as a dorm head in the girls' dorm. I've led field courses to Arizona to go rock climbing, Dominican Republic to do community service, and many other things. So I'm excited to be here with all of you this evening.
All right, hi, I'm Brian Flores. I'm a 2-year sophomore and I'm originally from New Jersey. What were the questions? Just kind of.
Yeah, a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about myself. So I wear a couple hats on campus. I'm part of the citizenship committee, which we kind of oversee the handbook and making sure students are in check and just making sure we create a welcoming environment. I'm part of the equity and inclusion student group, which kind of oversees all, I guess, social issues that may occur on campus and as well making sure the environment is safe for all. I'm doing ambassador work for the school, hiring committee and all that. I have other couple hats that I wear, but those are just a few. And yeah, I'm excited to be here and saying a lot about what the school has to offer.
Hi, I'm Toby, and I am originally from California. This is my first year here. I'm a freshman. I love White Mountain School and I love the setting.
Awesome. Thank you all for those amazing introductions. One piece that I omitted from my opening remarks is that experiential education really does transcend into various elements of our school. So in just a moment over here, you'll hear from Sean, who oversees a lot of our experiential programs touching the outdoors. After that, Leah, oh my gosh, right and left here. Leah is going to speak to us about how she has incorporated experiential education a little bit more into the classroom and the more traditionally academic spaces. We'll certainly hear from our students as well, and then we'll launch right into some questions. So Sean?
Sure. So we do a lot in the outdoors, and I would dare say that we're probably not even going to be able to cover everything in this meeting. And so we're going to try to cover some of the primary aspects of what we do. I'm going to try to focus on 3 specific ones here, because as the others on here know, I can talk about this for longer than I should. So I'm going to start out with our orientation. So when students come on campus, one of the first things we do at the beginning of school years is we go out on an orientation, and groups of 10 to 12 all scattered out. And as Pete had mentioned, we have a beautiful setting here in that we're at the northwestern tip of the White Mountains. And so we're able to go hiking, to go rock climbing, to go flatwater canoeing, to do all of these things, as well as helping do community service at the local town some really cool opportunities. But the way I like to describe that to people is all of that stuff is almost like a bonus in a way, that we are using this beautiful setting and these really fun and cool activities as kind of a vehicle to help students learn about each other and get to know each other and kind of build up our community. And so while students are able to get hands-on learning of how to camp outdoors, some basic knowledge of whatever it is they're doing, they're also creating really strong friendships and foundations for that. And just getting a sense of what this school is like, which is really important. We do a lot of like questions from a hat, and more so, instead of faculty and staff answering, we actually try to have returning students answer and give descriptions on things. So it's a very integrated process that we try to get all of our students into and experiencing. So that is kind of in a nutshell our orientation program. One of the cooler things that we do is our field course program. We generally have one in the spring, one in the fall. And I think this is one of our best ways of showcasing the experiential education that we get to do here on campus, in the sense that it is fine and great to say learn about geology, but it is such a bigger impact to have students go to Iceland, where geology is literally surrounding them, and to actually get to interact with it and touch and like, oh wow, this cool thing that got built and got created there. How did that happen? We've had groups go down to Washington, D.C. to meet with civil rights leaders to learn about that process and about that history. And we've had groups like help out at homeless shelter over in Portland, and to understand what that life is like and how they can give back and help out with those things. And I could talk a lot about really cool courses, but the fact that our students get firsthand experience doing those things and being a part of something that impacts others is really cool, and is definitely a highlight for a lot of students here. It's a lot of fun for staff as well, especially seeing students grow throughout that time. And sometimes some of them have those like eureka moments or whatnot, where it hit them like, oh, this is what it's like when I do this, or oh, this is how I can take care of myself in the outdoors or in all these other situations doing these things. So really cool. Obviously, so I'm going to transition into our exploratory learning stuff, because obviously this year, unfortunately, we weren't able to experience that fully with COVID and everything. But we wanted to take a lot of that same learning experience and translate that to something that we could do on campus. And working with all the different staff, coming up with ideas and even getting ideas from students, we were able to create these programs, as we call it, our exploratory learning, or EL kind of courses, where students are able to have that same experiential learning process to get into something they wouldn't normally get into. Whether it be, oh, they're gonna learn how to use a wood shop and how to do everything in there in the process of creating their own canoe paddles or their own skateboards, or whether they're going to learn really good life lessons within our healthy ways of managing stress and anxiety, and what they can do independently on their own to help themselves out when they are feeling stressed or anxious about something. Or we're going to be doing our backcountry gourmet, where a lot of students think, oh, if I'm going to go out and outside, like the food is going to be subpar. Students actually today made creme brulee outdoors, and one student was like, oh, this is great, I get to like roast up this sugar and create these things. I was actually really jealous. As a side note, I was supposed to get some of that food, and they ate it all. So it came out really well. But that process of putting yourself out there in an environment or a situation that you wouldn't normally do, and being guided through it to the point where then you are comfortable with that knowledge or with that skill set, and you could actually do things independently on your own with it. And I think that's one of the highlights that we're trying to keep going. And it's been really successful. Our first day of it was today, and it was really, really good. So I can talk for a while about this stuff, so I'm gonna stop here and pass it over to Leah. But yeah, it was really exciting stuff.
Well, and Sean, sorry, Leah, I'll pass it over to you in just one second. What I will say is, Sean, we're going to go into some more detail about some of the pivots and adjustments we've had to make. And specifically, I really want to hear from these two, the experiences that you're having. And Brian, you can certainly juxtapose last year's experience to this year's, but we will get to that just after Leah's overview. So Leah?
Awesome. Thank you, Pete. Thanks, Sean. Always fun to hear you talk about this program. Yeah, so I've had the pleasure of perhaps one of my best experiences with our experiential programming here on campus was in my second year. I was able to work with a student who decided that their laser project, which is sort of their culminating academic experience here at the White Mountains School, was to plan her own field course. And so she came to me and she said, Leah, I'm really interested in nutrition. I said, great. Nutrition would be a wonderful course to teach in the classroom. What can we take about nutrition that makes it a place-based program? Like, what aspects of nutrition can we go out into the field? Can we go out into a place and get a better perspective on? And so we talked through a lot of different options, and she came to decide upon nutrition and social justice. She really wanted to look at, was it possible to, in a city, eat healthily, to have a balanced diet? What would a balanced diet consist of? What would it cost? How could you create that? What resources were available to make that happen? And so she and I sort of looked around for places that would make the most sense. We ended up in Providence, Rhode Island, which as a location is fascinating. It's the only state in the United States as of that time, I don't know if it's changed in 3 years, to have someone dedicated to a food security plan for the state. And so we were actually able to go to the governor's office. She arranged for us to interview the woman who was serving in that position at the time. We went to a bunch of different organizations around Providence to talk to them about what they were doing to promote food justice. We did a challenge dinner where we went to a local farmers market that was actually just local citizens growing food in their backyards in 5-gallon tubs, really grassroots style, and ingredients that aren't your normal farmers market ingredients because they were culturally relevant to that community. And we did a challenge meal where we had to figure out how to cook these amazing vegetables that folks had grown. And so being able to advise her through that process and then co-lead that trip with her, I still think back on often as just one of the most incredible opportunities for a high school student to have had. And I feel really fortunate that I was able to be part of it. And I share that story because I think that idea of learning about an idea and learning about it in a specific place is one of the things that drives our educational program at the White Mountains School. The White Mountains are an amazing classroom, and whenever possible, even within our normal academic courses, we are engaging with the local environment. And it can be in small ways where at the start of every Spanish class, we talk about the day. And part of that when we're all on campus is observing the weather. And I've noticed, and my students have noticed, how much more attuned we are, even with our place, because every day we have class, we start by writing about what's going on from a natural perspective, right? And so that's Spanish class, and we're doing a little bit of ecology. And so I think those threads of taking advantage of place really make our experiential program so fun and so lasting. I think the lessons learned on field course or on our project blocks or on orientation, those lessons stick with the students because the thread for them is deeper when they've experienced it in the place.
Amazing. Leah, those were such great examples. And the connective thread that I want to make sure that everyone understands is that that culminating project that Leah just described was run as a field course. So that's how these things all connect and come together. And as Sean shared, we have had to make some changes, some pivots to our field course programs this year, because typically we use the world. We get out and we find places that are most apropos for that learning experience. This year, for safety reasons, of course, we want to stay local, and we have this beautiful campus to utilize. So we have. Toby and Brian, you both have been quiet for too long. You both were in your exploratory learning classes today. Toby, can you tell us what class you took and what you did during that class?
So the class I took was a newsletter class. So we came up all by ourselves. It was me and a group of other students, and we had some guidance from a teacher, and we came up with our own newsletter. So we were just given a basic like framework, and so we could choose if we wanted to do it video format, like a podcast, or a typical newspaper, an email. And so it was very fun. I enjoyed it a lot, and we were able to focus on what we liked most. And I took like my passion and wrote it down, and some people like loved fashion, and so they created a fashion column, stuff like that.
Now, Toby, I don't want to make you give away any secrets before the release, but do you mind sharing what you decided to write about?
Yes, I'm very passionate about politics and the government. So I decided to write about, I did 3 different little articles about current events. And so current events in the US government.
Very cool. Very cool. Brian, how about you? What was your EL class today?
Yeah, so my EL class was building and walking the labyrinth. And like when I first say that, you're like, oh yeah, he's building and walking a labyrinth. But it actually goes much deeper than that. We kind of learned that it was an art form back then, as a way for people to kind of express themselves. And the one thing that I took away from it is like completely different from a maze, is that it's huge, like in size, but there's only like 2 points. There's the beginning and then there's the end. There's no paths that branch out that just get you lost. There's no dead ends. It's just one point to another. And while yes, it is massive, there's only one path to follow. And that, I don't know, that connected to me on some level. We learned that back then people used to just kind of use that for fun. It was a way of kind of testing their navigational skills, seeing how far they can get, seeing how, I guess, brave they were. It was a way for people to kind of relax the mind, making sure that they have time to breathe. And this was just one way of exercising in a way. There was no thought put into it. You just had to walk and express yourself. And so we went out in the snow and we took a bunch of sticks that we found and we made a labyrinth. While there was a lot of snow in the way, we had to shovel a lot of it. It was really nice once we got to see our hard work get put into practice, and we kind of walked it. We took some videos, and we're probably just going to leave it up for the rest of the campus to explore. We might set up some more just so people can have something to do, because I feel like a lot of people, especially now, just kind of want something to do that isn't staying in their dorms doing classes. Sometimes they need to get out, and being able to express themselves in that way is nice. So yeah, that's my take.
That's awesome. Brian, I will ask, how did you choose that EL course? Because students did get to rank their choices. Were you like, oh, this is good marketing. This is a good brand identity here?
Yeah, so I had made the mistake of putting my courses in opposite order, with I think one being, I think, like least favorable or something like that. And then I forgot, and then I had to tell Sean that I wanted to switch because I ended up with dancing. And while dancing is fun, I'll admit I dance in my room sometimes to music. I just won't do it in public, but I'll eventually earn the courage for that. But yeah, I really wanted to do the Labyrinth walk, mainly because I don't know. I just thought like labyrinths are cool. They're so big in structure, like big in size, but they were just simple in practice. So I eventually chose that, and I did not expect to like get an experience of like learning what people did back then with them. Like I just wanted to build and walk a labyrinth, but I got much more than I had expected, which was very nice.
Thanks so much, Brian. That's really wonderful. We heard at the start of this that Sean and Leah are both coaches here, and outdoor education and experiential learning certainly happens in the co-curricular spaces. And when I say co-curricular, some schools will call them extracurriculars or afternoon activities, or simply a blanket sports. Toby and Brian, what co-curriculars did you participate in the fall, and then what are your co-curriculars this winter?
Toby, you can go first.
Thank you. So my co-curricular in the fall was I chose to do soccer. So we didn't have any games because of safety with COVID, but we practiced and we had and we still had a lot of fun. We played a lot of games, a lot of exercise, and it was just a really nice experience in general.
Yeah, so in the fall, I did cross country, and I found that fun mainly because of the competition with other schools. But that unfortunately didn't happen. But it was more of a personal season for me. I just really wanted to get better, stay fit, and that was kind of like the main point of it. I just wanted to stay fit and do something. And running had always been like part of my life, so I just enjoyed that. And then for the winter, right now I'm doing theater, and we're hopefully putting on something for the school. Maybe not in the theater itself, but we'll think of something. I might do a comedy. Uh, yeah, sometimes I had some friends that had created a photography club, and I was part of that for a while. It was just nice. We kind of explored the nature of the great back doors of WMS. So that was really nice.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. And Sean, are you coaching this winter?
Yep. So I currently right now I'm doing indoor rock climbing, and then which is always great. And for those of you who don't know, I don't know if you do or not. In our gym, big gym, we actually have a really cool rock climbing wall. 13 different roped sections of wall, as well as a big bouldering area with a seamless pad system. It's really cool. We have pictures of it somewhere. Check it out. And then in the fall, I did another form of rock climbing. We did bouldering. Due to how COVID restrictions were going and the uncertainty at that time, we were uncertain whether we would be able to go off campus like we normally do and do outdoor rock climbing, whether we would have to only stay indoors, whether we would get to climb we have a couple local boulders on campus, which are great for climbing on. Bunch of different boulder problems on them, which is actually really cool. And so it was actually kind of interesting as we learned more about COVID and everything, figuring out the best way to meet all of the guidelines that we needed to, but also keep it like new and interesting for the students. That was actually kind of personally fun for me.
Thanks, Sean. And one more plugged question for Leah, and then we'll jump into some Q&A. Leah, you mentioned Backcountry Sisters, and I would love if you could explain that in a little bit greater detail.
Yeah, so Backcountry Sisters was started maybe 3 or 4 years ago when a group of female students approached me. At the time, I was the only female climbing instructor. And they said, can we have some all female identifying hours at the gym for climbing? So it started there. And then we quickly realized that was really fun. It was just a very different vibe in the gym when it was all female identifying students and faculty kids. It was a very inclusive space within female identifying. And out of that, a group of actually outgoing seniors, which I think is a cool piece to this story. It wasn't going to benefit them, but they wanted to be part of creating the group. And so it was actually a group of outgoing seniors saying, this is something we wish we had had during our time. We want to help create it. We want to help set this in motion. And so along with the seniors and some underclassmen, we did get it up and running. And during a non-COVID year, we run quite a few events, both on campus and off, a lot of beginner-friendly events. So if you've never tried something, it's an opportunity to go mountain biking for the first time. The last event we ran before we had to go emergency remote in the spring was, I think we had 2 full minibuses of students who had never been in a whitewater kayak before. And we took them to a pool because it was March and there was snow on the ground. But we took them to a pool and we learned just some basics of how do you get in and out of a kayak? How do you do some basic paddle strokes, in hopes that that sort of intro fun experience, and we played lots of silly games in the pool, would be maybe that stepping stone for a student to sign up for whitewater kayaking in the spring. So really any event that students say they want to have happen, we try to make happen. And then our big event of the year is typically a winter women's weekend, and we partner with local schools in the area. And they bring their faculty and some of their students, and we do sort of a winter celebration of just getting out, whether it's ice climbing, freestyle skiing, cross-country skiing, ice skating, playing in the snow, just any of the ways you can get outside in the winter. That's what that's all about, and to be just a female identifying space in the outdoors.
Hey, thanks so much for that, Leah. That is an amazing group, and we strive to make sure that students have the ability to try things and to feel safe in an environment that is welcoming and supportive. And Backcountry Sisters is nailing it. I think that group they're just doing incredible work. So we've had a couple questions come in, and like I mentioned at the start of this, we had a couple questions that were pre-submitted. So this one is for Brian and Toby. I'll start with the part of the question that is not necessarily tied to experiential education, but then I'm going to ask a follow-up that ties to it. So the question is, what motivated you to apply to the White Mountain School? And Brian, maybe you could kick off, and Toby, you can go after that.
Yeah, so I remember little eighth grade public school me was thinking like I want something challenging. I know that like my public high school was like great and all, but I kind of wanted something different. Like I was given the opportunity for students of underrepresented backgrounds to have a chance at private school life, and I took that. And a lot of my friends, they were like boarding schools, like they always think it's something bad, like military boot camp or something. And it really wasn't that. Like I was afraid for a little bit. I was thinking that's what it was, but after I did research on boarding schools, I found out that no, they're like actual educational institutions. So I was like, okay, I feel much more positive about coming here. So I had researched WMS, and it was one of the smaller schools, roughly, I don't know, correct me, Pete, about like 140 or so now. So having that small community meant so much more interactions with people. And while yes, thousands of students is nice to have around, I just don't have that like consistency that I would here, where I have similar faces with totally new experiences every day. And so having that sort of community and belonging to a place was nice. I wanted somewhere that would challenge me, and WMS's hands-on approach to education was like fascinating. We had field courses, we had orientation for us to get adjusted to the school environment and its culture. I don't know, this place just held so many values that aligned with mine, and I couldn't really see myself anywhere else than here. The environment was so much newer than where I had lived in a fairly big town, where I didn't get outside much except play video games. So coming out here, I explored the trails, went off trails, and I don't know, I just had fun up here, getting to meet new people, getting so many opportunities like this to share my experience. And overall, I chose WMS just for the people. You know, that's what makes or breaks your high school career. It's the people that you meet along the way. So
For me, I decided to apply to White Mountain School was because also the community. So I value very much like interactions with my peers and being able to hang out and being able to know people. And although, like Brian said, a big school, there are a lot of people, you can know a lot of people. I feel like with a big school, you may not get those like intimate connections and those like really get to know people really well and get to like be with the teachers and not just have them be those like figures in your life that like you see in class and only in class. And I really found that to be really nice, that I could like that the teachers were also the dorm parents and they would support you. They would be able to be there if you needed anything. Some teachers were your advisors. It was a really supportive and really like great community. I had a talk with a student who goes here now before, and I decided, wow, this is an amazing place. Like I loved it so much. I love the scenery. I love the snow. And so yeah.
Hey, thank you both so much there. Toby, I was digging through my email there to find the notes from our interview, because I remember you interviewed in July, and I know you asked a couple questions specifically about the snow, but I couldn't pull them up fast enough. Nevertheless, the follow-up that I was going to ask was if any pieces of the experiential education program were part of your decision. And Brian, I know you touched on that. And Toby, I think you did a really nice job touching on that as well. The next question that I have is for Leah and Sean. And this is in the same vein. As adults, we also make decisions to work in certain places, to live in certain places. And so are there aspects of the White Mountain School's experiential learning and experiential education program that have brought you here and that have pushed you to be a better educator? Leah, do you mind kicking it off?
Yeah, I can begin. The White Mountains were always my playground growing up, and I hadn't been back in a few years. I was living in Spain, finishing a master's, and I came to interview, and I drove through Franconia Notch, and I just like knew I needed to be back in this landscape. Our location is absolutely spectacular. I love the outdoors. I love taking students out into the outdoors. I equally love like a hard day of skiing and trying to keep up with our students who are definitely better than I am. As much as I love helping a student take their first turns on the bunny slopes. And you get to do all of those pieces here. I think it doesn't have a culture of elitism around our sports and outdoors program. It's very beginner friendly. And I think it's joy driven. I feel like did you get out there and have fun today? Did you climb something that was interesting, that challenged you? Great. It doesn't matter that one person's grade might have been a harder grade than the other in terms of climbing, right? It's about getting out there and getting after it. So that piece of sort of the culture and then the place that we get to play in have definitely been drivers for keeping me here. Pete, I love the question of has it made me a better educator? I think in some ways it does, because you want to figure out ways to get outside and explore with the students. And you want to think about how to bring the place that we're living in to the classroom. And I've seen it happen in really academic ways. I've seen it happen in authentic, just playful ways. But one that's coming to mind is thinking about the Bethlehem dump scenario. There was this like contentious issue around whether a dump would stay in Bethlehem or not. And I remember that we brought students one evening to go to a town hall meeting, and a Bethlehem town hall meeting is typically a quaint event with maybe 10 people in the room. But this night was huge, and it was in the gym of the local high school. And just thinking about those pieces too, I think, yes, we are a school on the hill to some extent, but we are embedded into the community, and we're constantly finding ways to engage. And I think that aspect too of this place draws me here and keeps me here.
Nice, Leah. So for one of the primary reasons that I love being here, and I've been very, very happy both working and living here. So there's a lot of different reasons, and I'm actually going to so our students are amazing, and I'm going to fully take them out of the equation for this for a moment. And one of the reasons I really am happy and grateful being here is that my other coworkers, but like the other adults and staff here, are really happy and positive people that consistently actively care about what they are doing, and making a really cool and fun experience for the students. And that is definitely something that I both really respect and really enjoy. It definitely makes my life happier and better to be around people who are very, very good and happy with what they are doing and the job that they are successfully accomplishing. So I love the fact that I'm surrounded by that. And that is like I said, our students are awesome, and these guys I do dorm duty with every night and love. But that is one aspect that I think people don't think about as much that I really love. For the pushing through experiential learning, pushing myself to be a better teacher, I really like how both independently as well as how our leadership team helps encourage us. For me, a lot of the time, it keeps coming down to the question of what is the goal that I'm trying to do. The goal isn't that I'm trying to give information to these students. That's not the actual end goal of this. The goal is for the students to understand this information and recognize how to utilize it, to learn this skill and be able to then take it on and be independent with it and feel comfortable and confident in what they are doing. And that is the goal. So my job through EL, experiential learning, everything is like, well, how do I make that then happen for them? And I think that is a key question that helps drive me to figure things out when we did our new exploratory learning program. How are we going to make that happen? Our goal isn't just to do these fun, flashy things. Our goal is to really, it's the process of going through all of this and learning all of this. And I think that's something that it always keeps me on my toes, and I hope it always does keep me on my toes.
And I'll just say, you two are two of the best. So, the fact that you're still able to find ways to push yourselves and engage yourselves and continue to grow as experiential educators, that just pushes everyone around us to continue to grow and learn. To be mindful of time, I'm going to wrap up with one question, and we're going to go all the way around the horn, so everyone will answer. Now, everyone here, including Toby, who has been here the shortest amount of time, has had at least an orientation an orientation experience, a field course experience, an experiential learning experience. All of us have shared one of those. So to give you a minute to think, I'll go first, but I'm going to go around the horn and ask each of you to share what your favorite memory from one of those experiential learning programs has been. Mine, and I'm going to keep mine to about 30 seconds. I took a mountain bike orientation trip, actually with Sean's partner, with Ashley, 2 years ago. And we went over to Kingdom Trails in Vermont. It's absolutely a mountain biking mecca. We had a wide range of riders, some novice and some quite talented mountain bikers, and we camped right over there on Burke Mountain. We were riding one morning and it was raining and 42 degrees, and it was a challenging day. And finally the sun came out right after lunchtime. We ate at this nice little pavilion, and just as a little icebreaker community building activity, we had everybody go around and give some props, point out something that you noticed in somebody else that was impressive. And one of our most talented bike riders pointed to a student who was very much a novice, and said, you know, I love the way how you didn't complain at all today. This was miserable. This was really hard. And I imagined, I thought that you would be really thrown by this, but your courage and strength there was impressive. And the fact that, you know, both the kids all did this and that they had their antennae up to notice those things was impressive for me. That was more than 30 seconds, but Toby or Brian, either one of you want to go next?
Okay, I'll go real quick. All right, so one of the field courses, and not to hate on Sean or Leah, who were my leaders for one of my field courses, coincidentally, just for the sake of relevancy, which by relevant I mean like a year ago in like March. I remember taking a Buddhism field course, and we went to Woodstock, New York, and mind you, this is like right when like Corona was being like huge, and like right after the field course, we had to immediately go home. But once we were at the monastery, when I first like heard about it, I was like, oh wow, Buddhism, that's so cool to learn about. I didn't expect to like live how they lived, but I was completely wrong, and it was so much more than I thought. And it's not one moment, it's more of the week that I was there. We lived how they lived. We didn't eat meat. We lived their lifestyle. We practiced what they practiced, and it wasn't something that was trying to convert us. It was just a way of expressing what they believed, and showing us that this is just a sliver of how many people live their lives. So we chanted together, we engaged in different activities together, we ate together, we cleaned together, and just that bonding experience was like so amazing. And being able to know that there's people like this who have these lifestyles is just amazing. But yeah, that was my quick take on that.
On my orientation, so I had an on-campus orientation because of COVID, of course, but I still loved it. So I think really it was just the being able to work with my peers. So we had teams, and so there are different activities that we would do, and we would collaborate. And sometimes maybe it would be a competition between teams. And so sometimes you might be like trying to like compete with one of the people you worked with the last round or something. And so it really let me get to know a lot of people. It also let me learn a lot of things. I did a lot of different things. Like we built bridges out of like popsicle sticks and other stuff like that. And we just had a lot of fun. And at the same time worked together. We worked on communicating. We like, obviously, we just had a good time and we got to know each other.
Thanks,
You can
Toby.
hop in.
Yeah.
Such a hard question, Pete. But I'm gonna go with the first thing that came to me. I have had the pleasure of leading 4 courses to the Dominican Republic And when we're in the Dominican Republic, we stay in lovely but basic accommodations, sort of a cinder block brick kind of house structure. But in the back, there is a patio. And dancing and music are a huge part of Dominican culture. You cannot fall asleep easily at night if you are disturbed by noises, because there's just music all the time. And if music is playing, there's a Dominican like bopping or dancing to it. And so we always run dance classes for our students. And there is always a student who is just terrified of this experience. Often one of our male students, and it's a repeated memory perhaps, because I've seen it every year, of just, we've gone through our lesson and now it's kind of social dance time, and just watching like the Dominican women that we've been working with, like grabbing our White Mountain School boys and dancing with them, and the, you know, just everybody dancing in the backyard under a little bit of light but blaring music, is, yeah, just being able to play and share in culture in that way is just, it's always a really joyful night.
That sounds awesome. So like Leah said, it's definitely hard. I'm gonna go with the first one that popped into my mind. This was it was a more winter skills, backcountry, and leadership based field course that happened last year. And I think this was on our second to last night. And I remember it was late at night. The students had gotten to know each other really well, third, fourth day, something like that. And I remember late at night having to get up and go quiet down the students because they were giggling and, you know, as kids do and stuff like that. And I had to be like, hey, it's definitely late. You do need to go to sleep now, all that kind of stuff, the usual thing. The next day, I was leading a lesson, a leading activity at the very end. And because we were finishing up and moving, I think, back to campus. And it was, I want you to tell us something about the person sitting next to you that you really appreciate about them, that you think they do really, really well, or like that you love that they do this, that you just think they're a great person, whatever that thing is. So I started to explain this, and they all started laughing. I didn't know why. And they started giggling and like looking away and stuff. And I was like, what's going on? And so one of them, Thaddeus, stopped the group and everything. He said like, oh, do you remember last night when you had to go shush us because we started laughing and giggling and being a little bit louder? I was like, yeah. He's like, this is what we did last night. And I didn't understand at first. Like, I don't know what you mean. It's like, oh, we actually went around and each person got to say what they really appreciated about each other student. And it just blew my mind. And I was just so happy and just so amazed that totally no adults egging them on, no like leading them into it, encouraging, nothing, all on their own. This was an activity that they decided they wanted to do. And it was just really remarkable. And I still remember that very vividly. So that's probably one of my favorites.
Well, Sean and Leah and Toby and Brian, thank you so much for being on the panel, for sharing your perspectives, for sharing your experiences, and a little bit of who you are and how you ended up here and why you stay. I hope that for all of our viewers, this was a really valuable program. If you have any additional questions, please reach out. I have to say this because I do every week. Here in the admissions office, we are starting to read applications. If you are on the fence or getting close to submission, if you need to finish up a couple items, either getting in an interview or submitting letters of recommendation, please just let us know where you are in the process. We are happy to work with you, troubleshoot whatever you need. Thank you all once again for joining. Thanks to my amazing colleagues and students for being panelists. And I hope you all have a great night.